Darkness. A sudden violent gasp. Shane's lungs burn as if he hasn't breathed in days. He jerks awake, body stiff, heart hammering against his ribs. His breath trembles. Everything is black. No light, no movement, just suffocating silence. His fingers twitch, pressing into something soft. Fabric, no satin. His pulse spikes. His hands move upward, pressing against a hard, unyielding surface. Wood, thick, smooth. A faint, musty scent fills his nostrils. His chest rises and falls erratically. This isn't a bed. It's not a room. It's a distant voice filters through. Muffled. Hollow. Words he can't quite grasp. He holds his breath, straining to listen. Then, a name. His name. We commend the soul of Shane Gorman. His stomach plummets. The air in his lungs vanishes. No. No. This isn't real. This is a dream. A hallucination. Something. It has to be. His heartbeat roars in his ears. His hands press harder against the wood, pushing. Nothing moves. His breath shudders. Then he hears them. Whispers, soft, muted, right outside. A murmur of voices, shifting bodies, a chair creaking. He isn't alone. His throat tightens. The walls feel like they're closing in. His fingers curl into fists. He shoves. Hard. No movement. The realization claws into his skull. He's in a coffin. His body convulses as sheer terror floods his veins. His hands slam upward. A thud. Another. His breath catches. Then, he hits it harder. Something stirs outside. A sudden shuffle. A voice. Low. Unsure. Did you hear that? Shane's breath turns ragged. His throat is raw, but he screams. I'm alive! Let me out! Gasps. A sharp gasp from a woman. A chair scrapes against the floor. Footsteps, slow, uncertain, approach. Shane freezes. The footsteps stop. The air grows dense, suffocating. Then, a single, slow drag of something sharp against the coffin lid. Not prying it open. Not helping. Just listening. Shane's blood turns ice. His mouth parts, but no sound comes out. His fingers tremble. Who's there? Silence. Shane's pulse rages inside his skull. His breath stutters, fogging up the satin fabric inches from his lips. The air is thin, stale. His body feels like it's sinking, trapped in a nightmare he can't wake up from. The scratching, slow, deliberate, continues. A single, crawling motion, like a nail dragging over the wood. Shane's mind screams at him to move, to fight, but his body locks up. His fingers twitch uselessly against the coffin's lining. His stomach clenches. What is outside? Who is outside? The whispers have stopped. The murmurs, the shuffling, gone. Only the scratching remains. A sharp tap right above his head. His spine stiffens. His breath halts. His ears strain for any sign of movement outside, but there's nothing. The weight of the coffin, the walls around him, the pressure on his chest, it's suffocating. He needs to get out. Now. His arms tense. He pushes up with all his strength, muscles straining, throat tightening. The wood creaks but doesn't budge. Help me, he screams, voice raw, desperate. Then, footsteps, soft, careful, moving toward him, closer. His breath hitches, his heart slams. The presence, whoever or whatever is outside, lingers. His ears catch the faintest inhale, a slow, deep breath, like someone savoring the moment. Then a voice, too close, too quiet. Shane, a whisper, right against the coffin. His entire body seizes. That voice, it wasn't his mother. Not his sister, not anyone he knows. It was wrong. A stranger's voice, yet it knows his name. Cold sweat drenches his back. His fingers curl so tight his nails dig into his palms. Who are you? He chokes out, terror cracking his voice. Silence. Then, in the blackness, a sound. 3 slow, heavy knocks against the lid. Shane's breath comes in shallow gasps. He's not alone. Someone, or something, wants him to know that. His fingers scramble, clawing at the wood. He kicks. Hard. His knee slams into the lid. It doesn't move. His head throbs. Think. He needs a way out. His pocket, his phone? No. He remembers now it was taken. He was in a suit when they buried him, and his belongings were removed. His breath quivers. Then another sound. Scraping. From beneath his heart stalls. It isn't coming from above anymore. It's below, inside the coffin. No, underneath it. A horrible wet scratching, like nails raking against the wood. But it isn't human nails. It's something else. Shane squeezes his eyes shut. His body shakes. He presses his hands against his ears. He won't listen. He won't acknowledge it. Then, a whisper. But this time it's inside the coffin with him. Shane's entire body locks up. His chest heaves, lungs burning as panic chokes him. The whisper wasn't outside. It wasn't above. It was inside. Shane, I see you. His breath shatters. That voice, it slithers through the darkness, too close, too real. A sound brushes his ear, feather light, as if lips were hovering just beside him. A sharp burning sensation pricks his wrist. A fingernail? Teeth? He jerks away, slamming his arm into the satin-lined coffin wall. No. No, this isn't real. His body shudders violently. The air is getting thinner. His lungs gasp, straining to pull in oxygen. He's buried alive. But worse, he's not alone. Shane forces his shaking hands to move. His fingers crawl across the velvet lining, searching for anything. A latch, a break in the wood, anything. His nails press into the surface, skin splitting as he scratches furiously. The wood won't give. It won't give. Movement. A slow shifting. The feeling of weight shifting beside him. Shane's breath catches. His entire body freezes. Something is in here with him. A shape, a presence. Close, pressed against him. A whisper seeps through the silence, curling into his ears. You don't belong here. Shane thrashes, his body slamming against the coffin walls. His knees hammer the wood, his arms shove, pushing, clawing, desperate to create space. But the walls won't move. His pulse hammers. His vision spins in the suffocating dark. He can hear breathing. Not his own. Theirs. Shallow, ragged, inhaled through lips that sound cracked, dry, rotting. Then, fingers. Cold. Wrong. Crawling up his chest, Shane screams. His foot slams forward, kicking hard. There's a horrible wet crunch. The pressure vanishes. The breath stops. The whispers cease. Silence. Shane is panting, chest rising and falling in ragged heaves. His fingers shake, clawing against the lining. Was it real? Was there really something there? Then, a click. His breath halts. The coffin unlocks. Shane's breath quivers in the pitch-black silence. His ears strain. The coffin just unlocked. But how? His fingers tremble as they reach up, brushing the wooden lid above. He hesitates. What if something is still out there? What if it's worse than what was in here? No, he can't stay trapped. Shane shoves the lid upward. It doesn't move. His heart clenches. His palms press harder, pushing, forcing, until the wood shifts with a low, groaning creak. A rush of cold air slams into him. It smells damp, stale, like earth, like rot. The darkness above him feels wrong. Too deep, too empty. His fingers grip the coffin's edge as he hauls himself up, and then he pauses. His coffin isn't in a funeral home, not in a graveyard, not in a crypt. It's in a room, a massive windowless room. The walls stretch into darkness, lined with hundreds of other coffins. Some are open, some are sealed, some are moving. His stomach lurches, his pulse slams in his ears. Where the hell is he? A light flickers overhead, a weak, buzzing fluorescence barely cutting through the shadows. He turns his head, his throat tightens. There's a table nearby. Surgical tools glint under the dim light. Scalpel, bone saw, clamps. A metal tray still dripping with something dark. His stomach twists. On the wall, a row of x-rays. Spines, skulls, people. But something's wrong. Some have extra limbs. Some are missing parts. Shane swallows hard. His fingers curl into fists. He has to get out of here. Then, movement. A shuffling noise from behind him. Shane spins. One of the closed coffins is shaking. His pulse spikes. He stumbles back, nearly tripping over a loose strap on the ground. His breath is ragged. The coffin's lid trembles. A soft thud from inside. Then, a voice. Desperate. Please. Let me out. Shane's stomach plummets. His feet feel rooted to the ground. His fingers twitch. Should he open it? Should he run? He stumbles backward. The sound echoes through the vast room. Then, more movement. Not just from this coffin, from the others. One by one, coffins begin to tremble, some violently, some barely moving, but all of them reacting. Then another sound, a footstep, not from the coffins, from somewhere behind him. He isn't alone. Shane's breath stops. He doesn't move. He doesn't even blink. That footstep, it wasn't his. It wasn't an echo. Someone else is here. His body tenses, every nerve screaming run, but he can't. The coffins, all of them, are shaking now. The lids tremble, rattling against their hinges. Some rock so violently they look ready to burst open. Then, another footstep. Closer. Shane's stomach twists. He can hear it now, the slow drag of a shoe against the concrete floor. Someone lurking just beyond the dim light. His gaze snaps to the side. Shadows stretch along the far wall, flickering under the sickly, fluorescent light. A shape moves. A tall, thin figure. Not running, not hiding, just watching. Shane's chest rises and falls rapidly. His mouth is dry, his skin clammy. Silence, no more movement. The figure steps forward. Shane backs away. His heel kicks something, a fallen metal tray. It clatters across the floor. The figure freezes. Then, a voice. You shouldn't be awake. Shane's legs lock. His mind races. What does that mean? His eyes dart to the exits. None. No doors, no windows, no way out. The figure tilts its head, its face is still hidden in shadow, but its voice, it sounds familiar. Shane's lungs burn. His pulse pounds behind his eyes. His own voice whispers in his mind, "Wake up, Shane. Wake up. Wake up." The air shifts. Shane blinks. And suddenly the figure is gone. The overhead lights flicker violently. The room tilts. The coffins start moving again, but not shaking, sliding, being pulled away, into the walls, into the floor. A low mechanical hum vibrates through the ground. The coffins are disappearing. Shane spins. The last one, the one that begged him for help, is sinking into the floor. A hand bursts out, a thin, pale hand. Its fingers twist, reaching. Shane lunges. His hands clamp onto the wrist, cold, damp skin beneath his grip. "Please!" the voice screams. The floor swallows the coffin faster. Shane pulls, yanking with every ounce of strength, but the force below is stronger. The hand slips away. The coffin vanishes. Shane stares. His fingers ache, still frozen mid-reach. His breath is ragged, uneven. What just happened? Then, a whisper. Right behind him, "You're next." Shane whirls around. No one's there. His chest heaves, his ears ring. The voice was right behind him. He felt the breath on his neck. He isn't imagining this. Then, a shadow moves. Not in front of him. Under him. Shane's gaze snaps down. His shadow is stretching, bending, changing. It's not shaped like him anymore. The limbs are too long, the fingers razor thin, the head tilted at an unnatural angle. It's still attached to his feet, but it isn't him. Shane stumbles backward. The shadow follows, distorting. Then it moves on its own. The shadow detaches. It peels away from his feet, slithering like a living thing. Shane chokes on a breath. His pulse slams. This isn't happening. It rises, standing up, unfolding. Now it's no longer just a shadow. It's a figure. His figure. An exact copy of him. Shane's throat tightens. His own reflection stares back at him, empty black eyes, a twisted smile that doesn't belong on his face. The shadow. Shane tilts its head, mimicking him. Then it steps forward. Shane jolts back. His spine hits cold metal, one of the remaining coffins. He's trapped. Shadow Shane raises a hand, mocking him. The fingers curl. Then, in a perfect replica of his own voice, "You should have stayed dead." Shane lunges. His fist connects, but nothing. The impact goes straight through, like mist. His own voice laughs in his ear. A sharp pain explodes in his chest like something is being pulled out. Shane gasps. His vision tilts. Something is wrong. His legs buckle. His body sways. His shadow is no longer beneath him. It's walking away. The shadow Shane turns to look at him one last time. Then, it steps into the darkness. And Shane's body collapses. Darkness, endless, suffocating. Shane's lungs burn. He can't breathe. His body feels weightless, adrift in a void. He tries to move, nothing. Tries to speak. Silence. Then a voice, but not the shadow's, not his. "Wake up, Shane." A whisper, soft, urgent. Then, light. Not a normal light, blinding, wrong. A cold rush of air slams against his skin. His chest convulses. His eyes snap open. Shane is somewhere new. No coffins, no funeral home. He's on a table, not just any table, a surgical table. Bright fluorescent lights glare down at him. His vision swims. He tries to sit up. Straps bite into his wrists, his ankles, his chest. He's restrained. Panic floods his veins. He thrashes, but the leather straps hold tight. Then, movement. Shane's breath catches. A figure stands at the edge of the light. Not Shadow Shane, not a reflection. Something worse. The figure steps forward. A man in a white coat, face obscured by a surgical mask, eyes cold, detached. Patient is conscious. The voice is emotionless, clinical. Shane struggles harder. The man doesn't react. "You weren't supposed to wake up this soon." Shane's mind spins. This isn't real. It can't be real. Then, the man in the coat turns slightly. Shane's stomach drops. On the wall behind him, a massive mirror. No, not a mirror, a window. And behind the glass, rows of people. Dozens, hundreds, all staring, watching him. Their faces blank, expressionless. Shane's skin crawls. He knows these people. He's seen them before. Then one of them moves, steps closer. Shane's breath shatters, because the person staring back at him is himself. Shane's heart pounds. His breath shudders. His own face stares back at him from behind the glass. Not a reflection. Not a trick. It's him. Dozens. Hundreds of him. His mind splinters. How? Why? He jerks against the straps, thrashing. His throat burns. "Let me go." The doctor doesn't blink. "You don't understand yet, Shane." Shane's gaze darts back to the glass. The copies of himself, they're not blinking, not breathing. They're just watching. Then one moves. Shane freezes. One of his clones tilts its head, slowly, unnaturally, then another, and another. They all start tilting at the exact same angle. Stop, Shane chokes out. But they don't. Then, a voice. Not his own, not the doctor's. It comes from everywhere. And it says, "You are the experiment." Shane's body locks. No. The doctor steps closer, adjusting his gloves. "We had to see how many times you could wake up." Shane's breath catches. The doctor gestures to the glass. "And how many of you would survive?" Shane's stomach churns, his pulse slams. He looks back at the copies. Some of them aren't moving anymore. Some are twitching, some are staring with hollow, lifeless eyes, and one is smiling, a wide, unnatural grin. "You were never at a funeral, Shane." The doctor leans closer. "You were in a test." Shane's vision spins, his limbs go cold. "No, no, no, no." The doctor reaches for a switch on the wall. "Let's reset you again." Click. Everything plunges into darkness. Darkness. Shane's eyes fly open. He's somewhere else. Not the table, not the lab. He's standing in a room. A small windowless room. Bare walls. No doors. His breath shakes. His hands tremble. He remembers everything. The experiment, the copies, the doctor, the reset. Shane spins around, searching, desperate. There has to be a way out. Then a sound. Shane whirls toward it. There's no door, but there's a mirror. A full-length floor-to-ceiling mirror. His own reflection stares back at him. He steps closer. So does it. His pulse hammers. Something is wrong. Shane lifts a shaking hand. His reflection follows. But, a fraction too late, his stomach twists. That's not a mirror. That's not him. The reflection smiles, not a normal smile. Something unnatural, wide, wrong. Then it moves forward, through the glass. Shane stumbles back. His breath snaps. The reflection steps out. Not a shadow, not a copy. Something else. Something wearing his face. Shane tries to scream. The thing lunges. Shane's vision implodes. Everything shatters. Then, a familiar voice. "Wake up, Shane." Shane gasps. His eyes snap open. He's back on the table. The doctor stands over him, calm, watching. "You didn't last long that time." Shane's lungs seize. "Let's try again." Darkness. Then light. Shane gasps for air. His chest heaves. His mind spins. He's on the table. Again. Straps tight around his wrists. His body cold, drenched in sweat. The doctor stands beside him. Calm. Waiting. "You're adjusting faster." Shane's stomach churns. His pulse slams. "This isn't real. It can't be real." "How many times have I been here?" Shane croaks. The doctor's expression doesn't change. "How many times have you woken up?" Shane struggles to think. Memories collide, fractured, looping. He remembers dying. He remembers waking up. Over and over. "What is this?" Shane's voice cracks. The doctor leans in. "It's a test, Shane." Shane's chest tightens. "A test for what?" The doctor's eyes darken. "To see how many of you we can make." Shane's blood runs cold. He looks past the doctor, at the glass, at the hundreds of copies, some alive, some frozen, some watching, and one that's moving toward the glass. The reflection's hand presses against the surface. The glass starts to crack. "We're done," Shane breathes. "I'm done." The doctor just smiles. "No, Shane, you're just beginning." The glass shatters. The copies rush forward. Shane screams, "Call to action," soft whisper. "Are you still here, or have you already woken up?" Tell us in the comments.